Great morning, everybody. Great, that's what I like, enthusiasm in the morning. So this morning we're going to have a group exercise in the best way to sweep an area. Every day shops get swept all over. Our shop gets cleaned on a daily basis, and it seems like sweeping might be one of those mundane tasks that just simply gets overlooked, and people rarely look for process improvements on it. So we've already sprinkled some of our dust inhibitor on the floor. It's stuff we use when we sweep to keep the dust down, but we're using it just for a simulation, so it's already on the floor. But before we can do a process improvement, there's some things that we need to have in place first. And one of them, does anybody know what one of the first things is we need to do? What's that?
Find the current state.
Find the current state. And when I first started on Lean, I heard this word called value stream mapping, and it seemed pretty complicated because I'm not a guy that likes a lot of graphs and formulas. And I got really confused by it. But really all that value stream mapping is creating a map of the current state of a process and then what the potential future state is. So what we're going to do is we need to be able to measure things so we can see if there's any improvement actually done, right? So sometimes people do projects like this and they say, hey, I've really improved the process, but if they've never timed it, there's no benchmark to really measure improvement from. So what are some of the things that we should write down that we would want to know about this process?
What materials you need.
What materials you need, time, how long is it going to take?
How many feet traveled?
Distance traveled. So let's just narrow it down today. So I'll get this big piece of cardboard. And one thing that we learned about Lean is that Lean can be down and dirty, simple and fast. Don't overcomplicate it. So we're going to create a value stream map, and we're going to start with current state, and we're just going to call current state number 1 is the time it takes to sweep and the distance travel. And we're going to go ahead and do it the way it gets done in every shop, every day, real time, and then we're going to see if we can improve that. So have I got a sweeper volunteer? Ryan, would you like to come out? Then we need somebody else to monitor with the walking wheel. Wendy? And then anybody want to run the stopwatch? Tammy? Come on over. So the idea would be we need to be able to measure current state of this task. So the first thing we need Ryan and Wendy to do is, Ryan, go get your broom and sweep this square, and we're going to walk the distance travel and time it and see how long it actually takes. And before we get going, are there any estimates about how long, we always talk about the things that Lean has taught us, and one is that how much is the customer willing to pay, right? That's first and foremost when we're looking at pricing. What's the value, anybody, to sweep this square? If you're a stakeholder or in the company, which we all are, right? And the more money we make as a company and the more money you make, what's the value of sweeping this floor? $3. $3. All right, at least we got a number. So James, if somebody came to your house and said, sir, I'm looking for some work, you would say, well, if you'll sweep this floor, I'll give you $3. All right, so let's just take an average wage and let's keep it nice and simple so it's easy to divide. Let's go with $12 an hour. Okay? And then we'll break that down per minute and see what the value is here. Okay? Because if somebody's charging you $12 an hour and it takes them an hour to sweep the square, well, you just spent $12 to sweep the square, so the value's not there. So let's go see if we're creating value for this company, all right? And the important thing is when we're doing this is that we're all on the same team. It's not a race. It's not a saunter. It's real time. Okay, you ready? Timer ready?
Yep.
All right, go ahead and go find a broom. This is what we need. Follow him while he sweeps all the way down. You got to go all the way down and then turn around. So one of the things that's pretty obvious is that the bigger the broom, the more you could sweep, right? But there has to be a reasonable number, right? We can't have a 10-foot wide broom. So you guys are doing a fine job. So this is very typical of how a floor might be swept. Would you guys all agree? And that this actually occurs here in our facility from time to time, or not time to time, on a daily basis. If you're not, if you haven't really defined the process on how to sweep a floor, this would be very typical. And that's the thing that's really difficult about lean when you're creating a culture is, when you have new people come on board, can you imagine a new recruit coming into our company and saying, okay, young man or lady, we're going to come in here and we're going to show you how we sweep a floor in the ditch. A lot of people would find that very micromanaged and could really find, would not be very happy with that we're a company that tells you exactly how to sweep a floor. But if you don't have defined processes in it, there's about 47 people that work here, everybody has a different way of sweeping, and there's really no way to measure process improvement if we can't get everybody on the same page. So James, I'm curious, are you watching the dollars trickle through your fingers here as we sweep this? And this is actual real time. There's no staging, we're not faking this. I'm curious, how far do you think a person should walk, James? What would be a reasonable expectations if I just asked you, how far do you think a guy's going to walk when they sweep this square? How many feet? And don't say nothing. 20 feet? Anybody else? Daniel, how far do you think somebody's going to walk?
Maybe 150.
150 feet to sweep this 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 square? You have an opinion, Casey? How far would you think it should take? 50 feet? I think that's reasonable. Wendy, how far did you travel? Okay, 710 feet. And what was the time, Tammy? So it was 3 minutes and 12 seconds. And that was actually pretty good time. Ryan here has really tall legs. So if you look at the two, I think Wendy might have been a little bit longer than 3 minutes. But at least we've created a benchmark, a starting point in our value stream map. This is the current state. And the word cost in lean stands for what? It stands for reducing, right? So the word cost exists only to be reduced. So we have a cost to do this job, and based on our $12 an hour, we can quickly decide or figure out how much it cost us expense-wise to sweep this floor. If we want to reduce costs, we need to figure out how to do this faster. So one of the obvious solutions is we'll hire only people with long legs, right? We can get a stick and poke people and make them go faster. That's another solution, right? Another option. But let's be realistic here. What are some options that we could do? Some things that we could do to improve this process. Anybody?
Change the way we sweep.
What would that, can you give us an example? You want to give them a broom? Do we have a broom? Oh, we put the broom up, but that's all right. But visualize. Here's the visual broom. Be careful with it.
Instead of sweeping all the way to the end, and then walking back and wasting this time, you can sweep across
In a straight line.
and then sweep back and work yourself all the way to the end.
Does everybody agree with that? So one of the things I think that Clay pointed out, if you listen to him, is that By sweeping the way Ryan did the first time, you're creating work or you're creating value as you go this way. But then when he walks back, he's not creating any work. So in a sense, that's muda or waste, correct? So you got to be careful when you're looking for lean improvements that you don't confuse walking with work. There's a lot of people that are really hard workers that just run hard all day long, but they're not really creating much work or much value for the company. Anything else we could do?
He could bring all the broom and the trash can and the dustpan with him on the first trip.
So we're going to ask you, Ryan, this time to get when you go over there and get the broom, put the broom, both brooms in the trash can, the dustpan, and bring them here. And maybe we should have him put them down here at the end where he knows he's going to finish. So let's go ahead and do that. Is the timer ready? Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to get some more dust abatement sauce here, and I'll go ahead and start getting some dust back on the floor. So one thing while they're off doing this that we really need to talk about is, Mr. Shingo or Mr. Ono, I can only imagine if they were here, they might ask some really tough questions of us. And anybody have an idea of what one of the questions they might ask? Why are you sweeping? And we would typically know that there would be at least 4 more questions coming by it, right? It's part of the 5 whys. So why are we sweeping? Is anybody? Andrew, why are we sweeping? Keep our shop clean. But go even further, why are we sweeping? Because there's dirt on the floor. So the next question would be, why is there dirt on the floor? Where did the dirt actually come from? So there's if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of lean, these are some really deep questions that you might ask yourself. One of the things that we've noticed in our shop is the black soot is really from propane exhaust out of the forklifts and also, the tires scrubbing onto the floor. So there might be a thought, maybe we could go to a different type of tire. Sometimes we bring in dirt from outside, so maybe having a grade in the ground so the forklift tires will clean themselves before they come in. And the ultimate would be to not even ever have to sweep and still have a clean shop. So you really got to be focused on, everything that we're doing all day, every day, looking for improvements. Does it look like we're going to have a better time now? And maybe, do you think the distance traveled is going to go down? What if we automate the process? So let me ask you, what if we had a robot doing this? On tracks, would this same value stream mapping apply to it? I mean, is there a difference between machinery waste or human waste and time? I mean, not really, right? Waste is waste. Okay, so here we go, round 2. How many feet this time, Wendy? 454. And time, Tammy? 2 minutes, 56 seconds. All right, let me ask you guys. Obviously, we saw some improvements. If you were an owner of a company or a stakeholder like you are, do you think there would be some value in teaching everybody to sweep the way we did in round number 2? Absolutely. Nobody would argue that. Just by changing a couple things, we were able to change this significantly, and the distance is now 450 feet, 454 times 365. 165,710 feet traveled per year, divided by by 5280 equals 31 miles. Okay, so Ryan, in your lifetime, or in just 1 year, you will have walked 18 miles less distance in this company. So my question to you is did he work any harder in simulation 2? Did he work less? Absolutely, right? He's going to put 18 miles less on them feet, so the feet are going to last longer, his shoes are going to last longer. You won't have to eat as much for lunch. You'll have more energy to spend time with your family when you go home at the end of the day. It's just win-wins all the way around. Is there a potential that our company would make more money? Absolutely, because he's going to free up an extra minute a day, which is 365 minutes a year, which we could do something more productive, like create a new product or improve another process. I think the big challenge is everybody comes to work and focuses on doing the job instead of focusing on process improvements. Okay, let's do one more simulation. We're trying to do this all in 30 minutes at our company at In the Ditch. Every Thursday we have leadership meetings. We also meet every morning, but on Thursdays we have a lot more time that we spend as a group. We try to spend at least 30 minutes as a group, so the goal is to get this Kaizen done in 30 minutes. All right, everybody, let's do one more round. What other things could we do to improve this place? We could move the brooms closer. Should we move the trash can closer?
You could sweep close, start on the other end and sweep towards your final destination.
We could sweep towards our destination. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that we could do, right? We could buy a electric-powered floor sweeper, which we're looking into right now. You could look at rinsing it out with a hose. There's a whole bunch of things that we could look at doing. But what we're going to do right now is go ahead and move the broom and shovel. So we're going to go ahead and pause the camera for just a second while we go ahead and mount these last brackets. Okay, so Paul's putting the last screw in. At In the Ditch, we've gone ahead and made, we make our own labels so that everything's clearly marked. This is where the dustpan goes, broom goes, shovel and squeegee. It's really important that everything's identified so it can go back. Each person knows exactly where it goes. Some people would say we're non-negotiable on these things, and we are. We're non-negotiable. If this is the broom designation, the broom always goes back, because one of the goals here of being a good team player is you always try to make the other person look good. If Paul hung these and labeled them, we're going to make him look good by following this process day in and day out. If somebody has a better way of doing it, we can have a Kaizen and look at changing it. But until then, this is how we do it. So we've went ahead and set this corner up real quick using a shameless plug for In the Ditch, some of our In the Ditch brackets. And we're going to go ahead and bring the trash can in and start this over for our third event. Okay. Timer's ready. You got your walking wheel ready. I'm going to go ahead and get some more simulated dirt. You guys ready? Timer ready? All right, let's go ahead and go. Already confusion in the work instructions, right, Andrew? That's okay. We would have to do a value stream map to see whether sweeping the other way would make a difference or not. Got to believe it would. And that's one of the challenges that we face is, when we create a process improvement is making sure we get everybody in the company on the same page. And I think that's really why it's so important to us as a company to develop a culture is we've got to get everybody on board so that everybody understands the importance of being able to follow everything to the smallest detail. But without a doubt, we're going to see a vast improvement here. And I don't know why it is that a lot of companies don't invest in trash cans and brooms. Does anybody have any thoughts why? Yeah, they don't see the value in it. And I think the cost of buying it all isn't more than $30 or $40. But who really thinks about sweeping day in and day out? And I think that's where U.S. manufacturing has really taken a back seat. It just absolutely boggles my mind that people say we can't compete in a global market. And the reason we can't is because we're not looking at every single process and eliminating waste at every chance and improving processes at every chance. And I really think we have a great chance to win on a global in a global market if we really focus on process improvements, okay? So here we go. This was our third round this morning. Distance traveled, Wendy, 220 feet and 1 minute and 50 seconds. Okay, in round one, it was 3 minutes and 12 seconds. We traveled 710 feet. Round two, we dropped that to 454 feet and cut it down to 2 minutes and 56 seconds. And round three, we dropped it down to 220 feet in 1 minute and 50 seconds. Just to sum it all up, we walked 15 miles this year. Still hard to believe, right? What would you guys say if I come in and said, hey, James, at the beginning I asked you how many feet you think we would travel? Would you believe me at the beginning if I said he's going to walk 49 miles a year just to sweep this square? No. Nobody would believe that. But when you create a value stream map, the proof is in the pudding. Now, you know, at some point, we got to stop and get on with our work. But I think another place that we could fall down as a company is, you know, Toyota talks about wringing the towel and wringing it again. And that isn't squeezing blood out of a turnip. That just really means that we're in pursuit of perfection. And I believe with all my heart, and I hope you guys too, that we could improve this process again. How many people think if we came back in here and spent another 30 minutes, we could improve it again? And then when we get that system in place and we teach everybody how to use it, do you believe we could come in and improve it again? Absolutely. And that's what they mean by wringing the towel and wringing the towel. But not many companies are going to focus on how to effectively sweep a shop. So if it took that much to sweep the shop, 49 miles, how many miles do you suppose we're traveling when we load a piece of steel? Or how many miles does a PO travel through our company? Or how many miles are you walking from your car to the time clock? And when we wash our hands, how many feet are we traveling? And how many feet do we travel when we clean the bathroom? And how many feet do we travel? And think about our customers, you know, when they pull into our facility, how many doors do they got to open to be able to buy something? And how many feet do they got to walk? Because one of the things we're trying to do is shorten the amount of time from the time a customer places an order until we get paid. So, you know, if I told you as an employee here that you will only get paid when this floor is swept, in round one, you're only going to get paid every 49 miles. Round three, you're going to get paid every 15 miles, so you're going to get paid 3 times faster. And we got to view that as our customers. Is there any final questions before we wrap this up?
I got a comment. The customer's willing to pay $3 to sweep this square, so Ryan makes $3 whether he walks 49 miles a year or whether he walks 15 miles a year. So he could potentially make 3 times the money because he's got.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody could hear that, but what Steve was saying is that if Ryan's getting $3 every time he sweeps a square, he has the potential now to sweep 3 more squares in the same amount of distance, and he would make 3 times the money. On the same token, as a company, Ryan, with just a little bit of improvement, could sweep 3 squares the same amount of time that it used to take him to sweep 1. So now we're getting more value. And nobody's working any harder. That's the big thing I got to get across to you guys about lean, and it took me forever to figure it out, is that lean isn't going faster. Lean isn't, I think when people mention lean, they think of a sweatshop with an ogre in there, you know what I mean, just whipping people into submission, and it's not. It's a lifestyle. I mean, it's personally impacted my life, and I know it's impacted others here because it's really about just getting better every day. And we talk a lot about our kids, right? You're never going to get up in the morning and go look at your son or daughter and look them in the eye and say, you know what, just be average today. You're never going to do that. At least I hope you don't. We're not looking at the people here saying just be average. We don't look at the processes and say, let's just be average. We want to be improving every single day. We want you improving. I want myself improving. I want my family improving. Everything we do should be just getting better each day, and that's what lean means to me. So we'll leave everybody on that note. Thanks, and let's have a great day today. Let's give ourselves a round of applause.